This is Fred Richani of TSC News here to recap UFC 217, Michael Bisping versus George Rush St-Pierre, November 4th, technically November 5th in the East Coast, 2017. We saw not one, not two, but three UFC title changes. That's the first time that's happened. Now, originally when this card was coming up, I really wasn't feeling it. I work in the New York area. I'm based in Jersey. I'm in between both states all the time. And I just wasn't feeling the buzz. I wasn't feeling the rush. No pun intended. But Saturday night came. I knew I was going to watch the fight anyway. But just the closer I got, the more the hours ticked away, the more I got excited. I got a little nervous too, but I was excited. I was excited because at least 2 out of the 3 title fights seemed to be exciting on paper, seemed to be great fights, and maybe, just maybe, if GSP has a good performance, win or lose, it'd just be a bonus. Well, this pay-per-view blew away my expectations. We had George Rush St-Pierre, for the first time in 4 years, come in and not only beat Michael Bisping, but finish him. When's the last time GSP finished the fight? Finished him. And choked him out via rear naked choke to win the UFC middleweight title. Afterwards, Joe Rogan interviewed him and said, "Hey, what's your goal?" He said, "Hey, I wanted this challenge. I'm not a natural middleweight." Robert Whittaker, his smile probably turned into a frown almost immediately after hearing that. And he hinted that he may go back to welterweight. Who knows? Maybe he'd even drop to lightweight or meet at a catch weight or whatever to fight Conor McGregor. Now, he didn't hint that to that extent, although I'm sure he's going to be asked about it in the post-fight presser. But man, oh man, what a magical night. George St-Pierre came out to the octagon. He was not wearing his trademark gi, which disappointed me a little bit, but he had his whatever GSP shirt he was wearing. Came in. First round, he looked pretty damn good. Had some nice strikes. Got a takedown of Michael Bisping. Second round, I got a little worried because Michael Bisping was just pouring it on. He was getting that cardio. He was getting that pep in his step. George St-Pierre took down Bisping. He ate elbows. Bisping did more damage with the elbows, from the bottom. And I was thinking, oh my God, is this going to be like, Kevin Randleman, Boss Rutan? What the hell is going to happen here? Is Michael Bisping going to turn it up and finish George St-Pierre? Should GSP have come back in a tune-up fight against Anderson Silva? I was all worried. I was a little nervous. I am a GSP fan. I'm somebody that respects the hell out of the guy. One of the first UFC events I ever covered live was UFC 128. Arguably the peak of Canadian MMA. GSP versus Jake Shields. That was an amazing spectacle. And the last thing you want to see, whether you like the guy or not, is a legend of the sport get his ass kicked. Especially being away for so long and somebody that's done so much for the sport. But thankfully, that did not happen. You see, George St-Pierre chose to engage with Michael Bisping, and he ended up tagging him with the big left, beating him down with some strikes on the ground. For whatever reason, the ref didn't think he should stop it. I didn't think Michael Bisping was defending himself at all. I mean, yeah, he was trying some up kicks, but for the most part, his face wasn't covered. He was just eating shots. And George said, "You know what? I'm glad you showed up to the fight, but I'm not impressed by your performance." Locked in that rear naked choke. Michael Bisping went out. And George St-Pierre, despite being a bit tired, despite being outsized, despite being bloodied, is our new UFC middleweight champion. Once again, he displayed ultimate class after the fight. Thanked the fans. Thanked Michael Bisping. Said he's a great fighter. They put each other over. Michael Bisping said that GSP is the better man. Michael Bisping said, "You know what? I did talk about retirement, but I still got a little bit left in me." So we'll see what happens in the future. Personally, I think George St-Pierre ends up vacating the middleweight championship and either fighting maybe Tyron Woodley, or they finally do the dream fight of Anderson Silva and GSP, depending on what happens with Anderson Silva and Kelvin Gastelum, which I just think is a terrible fight for Anderson. But that's another story for another day. It was absolutely insane. And GSP did look a bit slower. He was thicker. I don't know if he cut to 170 in his next fight, if he'd be any more faster. Because at the end of the day, he does still have to cut weight. Maybe he doesn't have to cut weight as much as some other guys. yeah, I would imagine a high-level athlete like GSP, who's one of the greatest of all time, maybe the greatest of all time, could probably cut weight a lot smarter than, say, Johnny Hendricks, who was an unfortunate victim tonight. But we'll see what happens. So far, though, so good. He did take some damage. He was in a bit of trouble, but he overcame the adversity, and he's our new middleweight champion, which is just freaking awesome. By the way, folks, if you're enjoying this recap, please feel free to click the like button, share this with all your friends, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to enable notifications for more videos. We had our second title fight of the night. Technically it was the second up to that point. TJ Dillashaw defeated Cody Garbrandt via knockout to win the UFC Bantamweight Championship again. This was an awesome fight. While it lasted, there was definitely animosity between the two. Long story short, TJ used to train at Team Alpha Male. He ended up leaving Team Alpha Male. Cody Garbrandt and his neck tattoo took it personal because he's still training under Team Alpha Male and Uriah Faber. And these two were on a collision course for some fireworks. It was excellent while it lasted. Let me pull up my notes right here. It was crazy because the first round was pretty even, right? I mean, they hit each other with some decent combos, but I wouldn't say there were any major strikes, right? Like, nobody really got rocked until the end of the first round when Cody just wobbled him. With a big right. And TJ was just walking to his corner, stumbling. I'm thinking, oh man, this man-child is done. But no. TJ came back. He ended up hitting him with a big right hook and then finished him off. That was unexpected. But what was it really? I see some people calling this an upset. TJ Dillashaw is a guy that was the first to beat Renan Barão. He's a guy that has beaten a lot of people in his path. He finished Renan Barão before. He had a very close, great fight with Dominic Cruz. Someone would make the argument that, hey, he should still be champion. TJ said, hey, I should still be the champ. Maybe he should be, but I mean, this guy's got an impressive resume, man. I mean, Assunção, Lineker, down to the wire with Dominic Cruz, Joe Soto, Renan Barão twice. I mean, this dude has done his thing. He's 15-3 for a reason. So, yeah, I wasn't surprised TJ won. But I was surprised in the fashion that he won. But you've seen Cody before. He's a tough guy. He's typically known to have a great chin and everything. But when you have that kind of style that's a little reckless, a little balls to the wall, you're going to get caught. And, TJ was definitely the better fighter tonight. After he knocked out Cody Garbrandt, he got in his face. Cody didn't know where the hell he was at. They embraced afterwards. They showed respect. But I think Cody was still kind of a little all over the place. It was kind of funny that Daniel Cormier was, saying, hey man, Cody should give TJ his moment and everything when, Daniel left the octagon after he was knocked out by John Jones. And I don't even blame Daniel for that because I'm pretty sure Daniel suffered a pretty bad concussion or some type of concussion after getting, knocked out like that by John Jones. So I don't want to hate on Cody too much for his antics in the cage. I think it's just one of those things where maybe his body language was misinterpreted. And again, the dude just got knocked out, so cut him some slack. I mean, he's not going to be all there, so hopefully a speedy recovery for him. But another awesome fight while it lasted. Man, I love GSP, but this next fight might have been the highlight not only of UFC 217, but of the MMA year. This was just incredible. Rose Namajunas TKO'd Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Round number 1, 3 minutes, 3 seconds. This was awesome. First of all, God bless Rose. I've always felt like she's one of the more likable, humble people in MMA. I did not like the fact that Joanna Jędrzejczyk brought up Rose's real-life mental issues on a conference call last week. That wasn't cool. You want to talk trash? Cool. You want to try to get under your opponent's skin? Cool. But, it's 2017. Maybe you shouldn't be making fun of somebody's depression and anxiety and all that jazz. I mean, I don't know. I guess there's a bit of a disconnect there for Joanna. And, yeah, I felt like she took things a little too personal. And she would keep getting in Rose's face at press conferences and everything. And then right before the fight, she gets super close to her face. Rose pushes her away. And, well, Joanna suffered the consequences here. It's just, she was trying to cause a ruckus, trying to get in her head. But, nope. right hand by Namajunas just knocked her down. Jacek temporarily recovered, but then she ate a huge left, several shots on the ground. Referee saw enough, stopped the fight. This was just absolutely nuts. Hands Jacek her first loss in MMA, wins the strawweight title, and then upon looking at the replay, you see that Jacek, who is known to not only be one of the best fighters in the world, but kind of a bully, tapped out due to strikes. Now listen, I'm not a fighter, okay? I'm not going to hate on anybody that's trying to protect themselves and tap out, whether it be due to strikes or due to submissions or whatever. However, based on, a number of MMA fighters and MMA folks that I know within the business, okay, tapping out to strikes is typically frowned upon. Now, it's one thing if you're some prelim guy and you're getting paid $5,000 and you're like, you know what? Get me the hell out of here. I get that. But when you're the champion, when you're undefeated and talk about how you want to retire undefeated, you tap out due to strikes when the referee was probably going to stop that fight anyway. Damn. Rose put a beating on her. And afterwards, Rose cut this wonderful promo. Just, Joe Rogan asked her how she feels. How does it feel to be the UFC strawweight champion? She's like, I'm just a normal person. And I'm looking around being like, no, Rose, I'm not like you. And that's okay. And she said, this belt doesn't mean anything. Just be a good person. Be nice to people. And it was just, she just came off so humble, so cute, so likable. It was awesome. And to see her fiance, former UFC fighter Pat Barry in the background, so happy for her. They've been through so much. Just a great MMA moment. Huge upset. A lot of people were counting her out. I thought she was going to lose, but I didn't think she was going to get smoked. I thought it would have at least gone to a decision. The girl's shown she's got heart, but tonight she showed she has power, and she showed that she is, right now, the best in the world at strawweight. So congratulations to Thug Rose, one of my favorite UFC fighters. Just awesome. Just a great moment. For people that tell you that there's no beauty in violence, okay, show them the GSP fight and show them this fight and the post fight. Just awesome. Just great. We had Steven Wonderboy Thompson defeat Jorge Masvidal via unanimous decision. This was pretty good. Not too bad of a fight. I don't think it was really all that close. Wonderboy looked good. Didn't seem as tentative as he did in previous fights, especially against Woodley in that last one, which was just god awful. Jorge Masvidal talking all this junk, saying, "Oh, you got to talk trash to get a title shot. I'm never going to get a title shot." Blah blah blah. Last time I checked, there were a number of people who didn't talk a lot of trash that still got title shots. So I think his theory is a little flawed there. And the story with Masvidal, other than the fact that he lost to the better fighter tonight, just he's one of those guys that talks a big game. He seems like he's got all the tools, but for whatever reason, in the big fights, he just kind of fades. The fight that defines Jorge Masvidal for me is his fight with Gilbert Melendez back in the day in Strikeforce. He actually, had Gilbert on the ropes a little bit, and he just seemed to mentally check out, seemed to get a little too cocky, and ended up losing that matchup, and he's never come close to sniffing a title shot since. In this fight, I actually think he was pretty active, and he did his best. Just, Wonder Boy has this weird, funky karate style, and he got the better of him, but yeah, it's kind of the story of Masvidal's career. And speaking of welterweights, in the opener, we had Paul Costa. This dude is shredded. I mean, he looks like Vitor Belfort's child. I mean, this dude is shredded out. And I'm not speculating anything here, okay? But let's just say he was shredded enough where some people might ask questions. So hopefully he passes all his drug tests. He defeated former welterweight champion Johnny Hendricks via TKO in round number 2. This was actually a middleweight fight. My bad. But of course, Johnny Hendricks is a former welterweight. And yeah, Johnny Hendricks did not look good. It was kind of funny because this fight was sponsored by The Walking Dead. And Johnny Hendricks just looked like one of those walkers, just kind of aimlessly trying to do something, get a takedown, hit a good shot. And he hung in there for a little bit, but the bottom line is I think Johnny Hendricks is done. Unless he gets a good nutritionist and goes back down to 170. I mean, even then, even if he got a good nutritionist, he's gotten a good nutritionist before. Yeah, Mike Dolce, I mean, the guy's had chance after chance after chance. I think just the dude's done. I don't know if he did any, magic vitamins before the USADA program, but all I can say is that he's the one guy since the USADA program has been in place that has taken a huge tumble, and it's sad, but it is what it is. I will say this. The story of him winning the welterweight championship, opening up a steakhouse, and eating so much steak that he ate his way out of a championship, that story never gets old. The prelims, we had James Vick defeat Joseph Duffy via TKO in round number 2. Mark Godbeer defeated Walt Harris via DQ. This was awkward as hell because Walt Harris was doing all right. And a lot of people are actually tweeting me about this and DMing me about this, thinking if Mark Godbeer was selling this. Well, let me tell you guys who didn't see the fight. Walt Harris was doing pretty well. Kicked Mark Godbeer low. Referee got in between them, and Harris grazed him with a head kick, but hit him hard enough where I think it really did kind of stun Godbeer. I got a lot of people in my DMs saying, nope. A lot of people are Snapchatting me saying, nope, Godbeer was selling it like pro wrestling. Regardless, it was a late hit, and Godbeer got the DQ win. So that was a mental fart on Walt Harris's part. We had Ovince St. Preux knock out Corey Anderson. Nice head kick out of nowhere by OSP in round number 3. Corey Anderson looked good before that, but man, he got caught, and afterwards OSP called out Ir Latifi. I can see that fight happening. That'd be a pretty good fight. Although he did get in Daniel Cormier's face a little bit, after he immediately knocked out Corey Anderson, but I guess he's probably smart enough to know he's likely not getting the next title shot. Randy Brown defeated Mickey Gall via unanimous decision. I missed the fight past prelims, but I know that Curtis Blades defeated Alexei Olenek via TKO in round number 2. And Ricardo Ramos defeated Ayman Zahabi, the brother of Firas Zahabi, via TKO, which must have been tough for Firas to see. But hey, that's the sport of MMA. So overall, man, a great night of fights. I mean, really, there's been nights I've watched MMA and I'm just like, it's not the same. The women's bantamweight fight that was a couple months back, that whole event was pretty brutal. Of course, Tyron Woodley and Josh Thompson, that was brutal. Oh my God, wasn't Jermaine Durandamy and Holly Holm earlier this year too? That feels like a lifetime ago, where Jermaine Durandamy won the fight in the most boring fashion possible to win the title, and then because she didn't defend the title, they stripped her of the title and then gave it to Cyborg in some vacant title match. Yeah, I think that really happened. Jesus Christmas. Yeah, it's been a rough year for MMA. It really has. At least the UFC. But this was a great night. And I think all things considered, they got the results they wanted. Yeah, they no longer have a undefeated women's strawweight champion, but they got Thug Rose, man, who comes off so likable, so cute, so cool. Yeah, they don't have Cody Garbrandt, who Body Armor just sponsored. But guess what? You got TJ Dillashaw, who looks like he's 15 years old. So you know what? Maybe he doesn't have a giant neck tattoo, but guess what? You can cast him in Stranger Things Season 3. And then, of course, you got the golden boy, the return of the king, George St-Pierre, winning the middleweight championship. I don't think he's going to remain middleweight champion. I think he's going to eventually vacate the belt and take some big money fights, perhaps at Conor, perhaps at Anderson, depending what happens with Kelvin Gastelum. We will see what happens, but if you're the UFC, you are very freaking happy with the results tonight. It's a shame that we can't get some breathing room with these fights, because we got to fight next week. I think we got to fight the following week. I'm not even going to bother trying to remember which card's which. It's all over the place. But you know what? I'm in a good mood for tonight. I'm going to be thankful for this great sport of MMA and this great display of MMA that we got tonight, which was UFC 217 GSP versus Bisping. But folks, I want to hear from you. What did you think about UFC 217? What did you think about the king, George St-Pierre, returning successfully inside the octagon? Let me know. Leave a comment below. Tweet us, Facebook us. Do what you got to do. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, take care. Don't forget to subscribe. We've got years and years worth of MMA interviews with a number of your favorite fighters. Don't forget to enable notifications. And until next time, as always, enjoy the fights.